I pulled the sleek black Mercedes to a smooth stop in front of Nexus Tower, watching through the rearview mirror as my passengers gathered their things. The woman in the back seat, Ms. Whitmore, the company's marketing director, was laughing loudly into her phone. "Girl, you should see my driver today," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. "He looks like he barely graduated high school. Probably can't even spell executive. These people have no ambition whatsoever." Her colleague, Harrison from finance, smirked. "That's why they stay drivers their whole lives. No drive, no vision. Just happy with minimum wage." They climbed out without tipping or even acknowledging me, their designer shoes clicking across the marble entrance. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, their words echoing in my mind. They had no idea who I really was. "My name is Marcus Cole, and I owned 40% of the private equity firm that had just acquired Nexus Corporation 3 weeks ago. I'd gone undercover as a driver to understand the company's culture from the inside before we implemented major changes. What I'd discovered so far was worse than our initial assessment. The rot went deeper than poor financials. It was in the people, the attitudes, the culture of entitlement. Tomorrow, everything would change. I'd built my fortune from nothing. At 16, I was washing cars at a local dealership, saving every dollar. By 18, I'd bought my first rental property with a risky loan and sheer determination. By 25, I owned 12 properties and had started investing in struggling businesses. I had a talent for seeing potential where others saw failure. I'd buy distressed companies, restructure them, and either sell them for profit or keep them as portfolio pieces. By 32, my private equity firm, Zenith Holdings, managed assets worth over $200 million. But I never forgot where I came from. I still drove modest cars in my personal life, still wore simple clothes, still treated service workers with respect because I'd been one. Money hadn't changed my values, though it had changed what I could accomplish. When my firm identified Nexus Corporation as an acquisition target, I'd insisted on the undercover approach. Numbers on spreadsheets only told part of the story. I needed to see how people actually behaved when they thought no one important was watching. The board thought I was crazy. "You're worth millions, Marcus. Why would you drive executives around?" "Because," I'd said simply, "culture determines everything. I need to see it firsthand." I'd been driving for Nexus for 3 weeks now. What I'd witnessed was appalling. My phone buzzed as I parked the car in the garage. It was Kenji, my partner at Zenith Holdings and one of 3 people who knew about my undercover mission. "How's it going?" his text read. "Worse than we thought," I typed back. "The entitlement is embedded at every level. Tomorrow's going to be interesting." Tomorrow was the official announcement. Zenith Holdings would reveal we'd acquired 60% of Nexus Corporation. We'd be installing new leadership, restructuring departments, and implementing accountability measures. I'd be introduced as the principal owner, and would take a hands-on role in the transformation. The executives I'd been driving around had no clue what was coming. I drove home to my modest apartment, part of maintaining my cover. My actual home was across town, but I'd rented this place to stay in character. Inside, I changed into comfortable clothes and reviewed the restructuring plans one more time. My phone rang. It was Patricia, our HR specialist. "Marcus, I've compiled the performance reviews you requested. Some of these executives are worse than we suspected. Whitmore has 6 harassment complaints that were buried. Harrison's expense reports show flagrant misuse of company funds." I exhaled slowly. "Send me everything. We'll address it all tomorrow." After hanging up, I sat in silence, preparing mentally for what came next. The next morning, I arrived at Nexus Tower early, but not as the driver. I wore a tailored charcoal suit, Italian leather shoes, and my best watch, a subtle Patek Philippe I'd bought to celebrate my first major acquisition. I looked every bit the successful businessman I actually was. Security didn't recognize me without the driver's uniform. "Can I help you, sir?" I smiled politely. "Marcus Cole from Zenith Holdings. I'm here for the executive board meeting." The guard's eyes widened as he checked his list. Of course, Mr. Cole. Ninth floor conference room, eh? They're expecting you. I rode the elevator up, my heart beating steadily. This was it, the moment I'd been working toward for weeks. The conference room was already full. 15 executives sat around the massive table, including Ms. Whitmore and Harrison. They were chatting casually, completely unaware that their world was about to flip upside down. The current CEO, Franklin Pierce, stood at the head of the table looking nervous. He knew what was coming. We briefed him yesterday, giving him the courtesy of 1 day's notice. Everyone, Franklin said, voice strained. I'd like to introduce Marcus Cole from Zenith Holdings, our new majority stakeholder. I walked in, and the room fell silent. Whitmore's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. Harrison's face went pale. They recognized me immediately. The silence in that conference room was beautiful. I watched recognition dawn on face after face. The driver they'd ignored, mocked, and dismissed was now their boss. Good morning, I said calmly, taking a seat at the head of the table. For those who don't know me, I'm Marcus Cole, managing partner of Zenith Holdings. We've acquired controlling interest in Nexus Corporation. Effective immediately, we'll be implementing significant structural changes. Whitmore's hand trembled slightly as she set down her coffee. Harrison stared at his notepad, refusing to meet my eyes. Over the past 3 weeks, I continued, I've been conducting an internal assessment of company culture and operations. I went undercover as a driver to see how this organization functions from the inside. Nervous glances shot around the table. A few executives shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. What I discovered was deeply concerning. A culture of entitlement, wasteful spending, buried harassment complaints, and a fundamental disrespect for the people who keep this company running. I pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. These are the changes we'll be implementing. Some of you will remain in your positions. Others will be reassigned or terminated based on performance and conduct. Franklin cleared his throat weakly. Marcus has full authority to make these decisions. I expect everyone's complete cooperation. I looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. Questions? The meeting continued for 2 hours. I outlined our restructuring plan, eliminating redundant management positions, implementing stricter expense controls, establishing a proper HR complaint process, and creating accountability metrics for every department. Harrison tried to speak up once. With all due respect, Mr. Cole, some of these changes seem drastic. We've operated this way for years. I turned to him slowly. Yes, you have. That's why the company was failing. That's why we were able to acquire it at a fraction of its potential value. He shut his mouth and sank into his chair. Whitmore said nothing the entire meeting, her face a mask of professional composure that barely hid her panic. When we finished, I dismissed everyone except Franklin. Once the room emptied, he collapsed into a chair. They're terrified, he said. Good, I replied without sympathy. They should be. You let this place become toxic, Franklin. That's on you. He nodded miserably. I know. I got complacent. Stopped paying attention to culture, just focused on quarterly numbers. You're staying on for now, I said, but as advisor, not CEO. Kenji will take over operations. You'll help with the transition, then we'll discuss your future. Franklin seemed relieved to even have that. Thank you, Marcus. I'll do whatever you need. I gathered my papers and headed out. Time for the real work to begin. Over the next 2 weeks, Zenith Holdings transformed Nexus Corporation. We brought in our own management team, restructured reporting lines, and conducted individual performance reviews with every employee. The gossip spread fast. Within days, everyone knew I'd been the driver. The reactions ranged from embarrassment to outright fear. People who treated me dismissively suddenly couldn't meet my eyes in the hallway. I addressed the entire company in an all-hands meeting. I'm not here for revenge, I told the assembled staff. I'm here to build a healthy, profitable company. If you're good at your job and treat people with respect, you have nothing to worry about. If you're not, this is your chance to improve or find employment elsewhere. I saw relief on many faces: the assistants, the maintenance staff, the junior employees who'd actually been kind to me during my undercover weeks. But the executive floor was different. That's where the real changes happened. Whitmore was called into my office on day 3 of the restructuring. She walked in stiffly, clutching a portfolio. "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. She sat, back straight, face carefully neutral. "Mr. Cole." I opened a folder containing her performance file. "We need to discuss your future at this company." Whitmore's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. "I understand you're upset about the things I said. I apologize. I was inappropriate and unprofessional. This isn't about hurt feelings," I said calmly, "though your comments were revealing. This is about 6 harassment complaints filed against you over 2 years, all of which were buried by your friend in HR. Her face went white. I wasn't aware of any formal complaints." I slid copies across the desk. "Your assistant filed 3. 2 junior marketers filed the others. You created a hostile work environment, made inappropriate comments about their appearances, and retaliated when they didn't laugh at your jokes." She scanned the documents, hands shaking. "These were misunderstandings. People are too sensitive nowadays." "No," I said firmly. "You abused your power. That's not a misunderstanding." She set down the papers, her eyes meeting mine with something close to defiance. "So you're firing me? Because I said some mean things when I didn't know who you were?" I leaned back in my chair. "I'm firing you because you're a liability and a poor leader. The comments you made about me were just confirmation of what these complaints already told me. You look down on people you consider beneath you." She stood abruptly. "This is retaliation. I'll sue." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "You signed arbitration agreements. And we have documentation of everything. You'll lose." Whitmore stormed out, slamming the door. I sat quietly for a moment, then pressed the intercom. "Patricia, please send security to escort Ms. Whitmore from the building. Her access is terminated immediately." "Already on it," Patricia replied. Harrison was next. He entered my office an hour later, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. "Mr. Cole," he said carefully. "Thank you for seeing me." "Sit," I said. He sat, folding his hands on his lap. "I owe you an apology. What I said in the car was disrespectful and wrong. I'm ashamed of myself." I studied him. His apology seemed more genuine than Whitmore's. "Tell me about your expense reports." He paled. What about them?" I pulled out a printout. $73,000 in questionable expenses over 18 months. 5-star hotels when company policy allows 3-star maximum. First-class flights when economy is standard. Dinners at steakhouses charging $400 per person. Harrison slumped. "I can explain." "Go ahead." He took a deep breath. "I got caught up in the culture here. Everyone was doing it. Pierce never questioned expenses, so I thought it was acceptable. I know that's not an excuse." I set down the papers. "You're right. It's not an excuse. You stole from this company." Harrison didn't argue. "What happens now?" I considered him carefully. Unlike Whitmore, his personnel file showed no harassment complaints. His team actually respected him. His financial work was solid when he wasn't padding his own pockets. "You have 2 options," I said. "Option 1, we terminate you and refer the matter to law enforcement. You'll likely face charges." He swallowed hard. "Option 2, I continued, you repay every dollar of inappropriate expenses over the next 2 years through payroll deductions. You accept a demotion to senior analyst with a 30% pay cut. You complete ethics training and work under close supervision. After 2 years, if your performance is exemplary, we'll discuss restoring your position." Harrison's eyes widened. "You'd give me a second chance?" "1 chance," I emphasized. "You mess up again, even slightly, and you're done. No exceptions." He nodded rapidly. "I'll take option 2. Thank you, Mr. Cole. I won't let you down. Don't thank me yet, I said. You've got 2 hard years ahead. Prove you deserve to be here. After he left, Patricia entered. You're being generous with him. He seems genuinely remorseful, I said. And his team likes him. People deserve second chances if they're willing to earn them. She smiled slightly. That's why Zenith succeeds. You see potential others miss. The restructuring continued for 6 weeks. We eliminated 12 executive positions, redistributed responsibilities, and promoted several talented people from lower ranks who'd been overlooked in the old system. One promotion surprised everyone. I made Yolanda, who'd been Whitmore's assistant, the new marketing director. She was brilliant, creative, and had been systematically undermined by her former boss. When I called her to my office, she looked terrified. Am I being fired? No, I said, smiling. I'm promoting you to director of marketing. She stared at me. What? But I'm just an assistant. You wrote the campaign that brought in our 3 biggest clients last year, I said. Whitmore put her name on it, but I know the truth. You've got the talent. Now you'll get the recognition. Tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept. She nodded, unable to speak. Over the next several months, Yolanda proved my instinct right. Under her leadership, marketing became the company's strongest department. She was collaborative, creative, and genuinely cared about developing her team. Meanwhile, I worked closely with Kenji, who'd taken over as CEO. We implemented new policies, transparent expense reporting, mandatory ethics training, regular performance reviews, and an anonymous complaint system that actually got investigated. The company culture began shifting. People seemed happier, more engaged. 6 months after the acquisition, Nexus Corporation posted its first profitable quarter in 3 years. Our stock price climbed 20%. Industry publications took notice, writing articles about our remarkable turnaround. I sat in my office one evening, reviewing quarterly reports, when my assistant knocked. Mr. Cole? There's someone here to see you. No appointment, but she says it's important. Who is it? Ms. Whitmore. I paused, surprised. Send her in. Whitmore entered looking different, humbler somehow. She wore a simple dress instead of her usual designer suits. Her hair was pulled back plainly. Thank you for seeing me, she said quietly. I know I don't deserve your time. I gestured to a chair. What can I do for you? She sat, hands clasped tightly. I came to apologize. Properly this time. I've spent the last 6 months doing a lot of thinking. I was awful to you. I was awful to my team. I was awful to everyone, really. I listened without interrupting. After you fired me, she continued, I couldn't find another job. Word got around. I had to take a position as a marketing coordinator, entry level, making 1/3 of what I used to earn. I'm sorry to hear that. She shook her head. Don't be. I needed it. I needed to be humbled. My new boss is younger than me, and she's brilliant. She treats me with respect I never showed my own team. Whitmore took a shaky breath. Working under someone else, starting over at the bottom, it opened my eyes. I finally understand how I made people feel. The condescension, the casual cruelty. It was inexcusable. I studied her carefully, trying to determine if this was genuine. I'm not here to ask for my job back, she said quickly. I know that's impossible. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. You were right about everything. I was a terrible leader and a worse person. What are you doing now? I asked. I'm working at a small marketing firm. My boss, Amanda, she's teaching me what real leadership looks like. And I'm in therapy, working through why I felt the need to put people down to feel important. For the first time since she'd entered, I felt my guard lower slightly. That takes courage. Admitting you were wrong, seeking help. She smiled sadly. Not courage. Necessity. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, most of my friends. I had to change or I'd have nothing left. We talked for another 30 minutes. She didn't ask for anything, didn't try to manipulate. She simply shared her journey and took full responsibility for her actions. When she stood to leave, I made a decision. Whitmore, give me your boss's contact information. She looked confused but pulled out a business card. Why? I want to speak with her about your progress. I called Amanda the next day. She was surprised to hear from me but agreed to meet for coffee. I heard about what happened at Nexus, she said as we sat down. The undercover CEO story made industry news. I smiled. Not my finest moment in terms of publicity. Tell me about Whitmore. Amanda's expression grew thoughtful. She came to me 6 months ago, desperate for work. I almost didn't hire her. Her reputation preceded her. But something in her interview made me take a chance. What was it? She cried. Amanda said simply. She broke down and admitted she'd ruined her career by being cruel. Said she wanted a chance to be better. I'm a sucker for genuine remorse. How's she doing? Honestly? She's my best employee. Works harder than anyone, never complains, actually listens to feedback. She's mentoring our interns and treating them with real kindness. It's like she's a different person. I processed this information. Would you say she's changed permanently, or is this temporary survival mode? Amanda considered carefully. I think the change is real. She talks openly about her past mistakes. She's in therapy. She's humble. Those aren't things you can fake for 6 months straight. I thanked Amanda for her time and left the coffee shop deep in thought. That evening, I called Kenji. Remember Whitmore? He groaned. Unfortunately. Why? I think she might deserve a second chance. Kenji was skeptical. Marcus, she was terrible. Harassed her staff, mocked you to your face. Why would we bring her back? Because people can change, I said. Harrison changed. He's been exemplary for 6 months. Why not give Whitmore the same opportunity? Harrison's situation was different. Financial misconduct versus harassment. Both were abuses of power. I countered. If she's genuinely changed, and her current boss confirms it, shouldn't we at least consider it? Kenji sighed. What did you have in mind? Nothing major. Contract work at first. Small projects, closely supervised. If she performs well and maintains professionalism, we evaluate further. You're too forgiving, Kenji said, but I heard the smile in his voice. Fine. 3-month trial contract. But she reports directly to Yolanda, and at the first sign of old behavior, she's gone. I called Whitmore the next morning. When I explained the offer, she was silent for so long I thought the call had dropped. You're offering me work? She finally said, voice thick. After everything? On a trial basis, I clarified. 3 months contract position, reporting to Yolanda. Prove you've changed, and we'll discuss something permanent. She started crying. I don't deserve this kindness. Maybe not, I agreed. But I believe in second chances for people willing to earn them. Don't make me regret this. I won't. I promise. Whitmore started 2 weeks later. I watched carefully from a distance, looking for any signs of her old behavior. What I saw surprised me. She was punctual, professional, and genuinely helpful. When Yolanda gave her feedback, she accepted it gracefully and implemented changes. She ate lunch in the common area, chatting with junior staff like equals. After 6 weeks, Yolanda came to my office. I need to talk to you about Whitmore. My stomach tightened. Problem? The opposite, Yolanda said, looking bemused. She's fantastic. She's mentoring 2 of my junior marketers, giving them real guidance. She created a campaign last week that's brilliant. And she keeps thanking me for the opportunity. I leaned back, surprised. You think she's genuinely changed? I think something broke in her and got rebuilt better, Yolanda said. I was terrified to work with her. I still remember how she treated me. But this person? She's kind. She's humble. She's the leader I wish I'd had before. After 3 months, we offered Whitmore a full-time position as senior marketing strategist, below Yolanda, with no direct reports initially. She accepted with tears of gratitude. A year into her return, she'd become one of our most valuable team members. She trained new hires, championed ethical practices, and spoke openly about her past mistakes as cautionary tales. One day, she stopped by my office. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "Getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me," Whitmore said. "It destroyed my life, but it saved who I was as a person. I was heading down a dark path, treating people as disposable." "You stopped that." "You stopped it," I corrected. "You did the hard work of changing." She smiled. "Thank you for giving me the chance. Not many people would have." After she left, I reflected on the journey. Nexus Corporation had completely transformed. Revenue was up 40%. Employee satisfaction scores had tripled. Turnover dropped to nearly zero. But more importantly, we built a culture where people felt valued and respected. Where mistakes could be learning opportunities if people took responsibility. Where second chances were possible for those willing to earn them. Harrison had been promoted back to his original position after 2 years of exemplary work. He'd repaid every dollar and become one of our most ethical leaders. Yolanda thrived as marketing director, her department winning industry awards. Even Franklin, the former CEO, had found his place as a strategic advisor, using his experience to guide us through complex decisions without the pressure of daily operations. Kenji ran the company brilliantly, implementing systems and structures that supported healthy growth. And me? I'd step back to chairman, overseeing strategy while Kenji handled operations. It gave me time to focus on other Zenith Holdings projects while ensuring Nexus stayed on course. 2 years after the acquisition, Nexus Corporation was valued at triple what we'd paid. We'd received multiple acquisition offers, all of which we'd declined. This company had become more than just an investment. It was proof that culture mattered, that people could change, that leadership made all the difference. I was in a board meeting when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. I usually ignored such calls, but something made me answer. "Marcus Cole," I said. "Mr. Cole, my name is Xavier Phillips. I'm a business reporter with Fortune magazine. I'm writing a feature about leadership transformations, and Nexus Corporation keeps coming up. Would you be willing to be interviewed?" I hesitated. I'd avoided publicity since the initial news of my undercover stint broke. But maybe it was time to share what we'd learned. "What would you want to discuss?" "Your unconventional approach to acquisitions. The undercover work. How you rebuilt Nexus's culture. The second chances you've given people like Harrison and Whitmore. It's a compelling story about redemption and leadership." I thought about it. "Let me discuss it with my team and get back to you." That evening, I gathered my core leadership, Kenji, Yolanda, Patricia, and even Harrison and Whitmore. I explained the interview request. "What do you all think? Should we tell this story publicly?" Yolanda spoke first. "I think it could help other companies. Show them that culture can be fixed, that transformation is possible." Harrison nodded. "It might also help people who've made mistakes professionally. Knowing that redemption is possible if you're willing to do the work." Whitmore added quietly. "I'd be willing to be interviewed too. If it helps even one person avoid the path I was on, it's worth the embarrassment." Kenji looked at me. "This is your call, Marcus. But I think the story could have real impact." I made my decision. "Okay. Let's do it." The Fortune interview happened over 3 sessions. Xavier was thorough, interviewing me, Kenji, several employees, even Whitmore and Harrison. He toured the offices, reviewed our financial turnaround, and spoke with industry analysts. The article published 2 months later under the headline, "The Driver Who Became an Owner, How Marcus Cole Transformed Nexus Corporation Through Empathy and Accountability." It was detailed, fair, and compelling. Xavier captured not just the dramatic undercover revelation but the deeper story about culture, second chances, and leadership. The response was overwhelming. My phone exploded with calls from business leaders wanting to know more, MBA programs requesting I speak to students, companies asking for consulting on culture transformation. But the most meaningful response came from an email I received 3 days after publication. It was from a young woman named Tasha. "Mr. Cole," she wrote, "I read your story and wanted to thank you. I'm an executive assistant who's been treated poorly by my boss for 2 years. I always thought I had to accept it. Your article showed me that good leaders do exist and that culture can change. I'm leaving my toxic job and looking for a company like yours. Thank you for giving me hope." That email made all the publicity worthwhile. If our story helped even one person find their courage or encouraged one leader to treat people better, it mattered. Over the next year, I spoke at 3 business schools and 4 industry conferences, always focusing on the same message: treat people well, hold everyone accountable including yourself, and believe in redemption for those willing to earn it. Nexus Corporation continued thriving. We expanded into new markets, acquired a smaller competitor, and grew our workforce by 40%. Every new hire went through extensive culture training, learning about our values and expectations. I made it a practice to have lunch with random employees monthly, not executives, but people from all levels. I'd eat in the cafeteria, sit with whoever was there, and just listen. It kept me grounded and gave me insights no report could provide. During one such lunch, I sat with a group of newer employees. One of them, a young programmer named Chris, looked nervous. "Mr. Cole, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "The story about you going undercover, was it scary? Knowing you'd eventually have to reveal yourself?" I thought about it. "Yes. I wasn't sure how people would react. But it was necessary. I needed to see the truth, even if it was uncomfortable." Another employee, Sophia, chimed in. "My favorite part was that you gave people second chances. A lot of leaders would have just cleaned house. Some people needed to go," I said honestly. "But others just needed better leadership and clear expectations. Harrison and Whitmore are perfect examples. They made serious mistakes, but they owned them and did the work to change." Chris nodded thoughtfully. "That's what I love about working here. I feel like I can mess up as long as I learn from it and try to do better. That's exactly the culture we want," I said. "Accountability without fear. High standards with compassion." After lunch, I walked back to my office feeling good about where we'd landed. Nexus wasn't perfect, no company was, but we'd built something healthy and sustainable. That evening, Kenji knocked on my door. "Got a minute?" "Always." "What's up?" He sat down, looking excited. "I just got off the phone with Cameron Industries. They want to partner with us on a major expansion into Asian markets. It's a 5-year deal worth potentially $200 million. I whistled softly. "That's huge. What's the catch?" "No catch, really. They've been watching our transformation. They like our culture, our values, our track record. They want to align with a company that does business the right way." I smiled. "Our reputation's paying dividends." "Literally." Kenji grinned. "So what do you think? Do we pursue it?" "Absolutely. Set up a meeting. Let's see what they have in mind." The partnership happened, and it was transformative. Within 18 months, Nexus Corporation had international offices and revenue exceeding $500 million annually. 3 years after the acquisition, I stood in the same conference room where I'd revealed my identity. But this time, it was filled with smiling employees celebrating our most successful year ever. Kenji stood to give a toast. "When Zenith Holdings acquired this company, we were failing. Toxic culture, poor leadership, declining revenue. Today, we're one of the most respected companies in our industry. That transformation happened because of one man's vision and everyone in this room's hard work. To Marcus!" Everyone raised their glasses. "To Marcus!" I felt uncomfortable with the attention but stood to respond. "Thank you, but this success belongs to all of you. Culture doesn't change because of one person. It changes because everyone commits to being better." You've done that every single day. I looked around the room, seeing familiar faces. Yolanda, now VP of Marketing. Harrison, back in his role and thriving. Whitmore, leading our new ethics training program. Patricia, still keeping us all organized. And dozens of others who made this company work. 3 years ago, I heard 2 executives mock me for being just a driver. I continued. They thought ambition meant titles and corner offices. But real ambition is building something meaningful. Creating a place where people want to work. Treating others with dignity regardless of their position. I paused, emotion catching in my throat. That's what you've all helped build here. Not just a profitable company, but a good one. Thank you. After the celebration, I found myself alone in my office, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Saw the article about Nexus in today's paper. So proud of you, baby. Not because of the money, but because of the man you've become. I smiled, texting back a heart emoji. A knock on the door pulled my attention. Whitmore stood there hesitantly. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say something before I left. Come in. She entered, looking more confident than she had in years. I'm leaving Nexus. My heart sank. You're quitting? No, she said quickly. I'm transferring to the Asian division. I'll be leading marketing for the expansion. It's a huge opportunity, and I wanted to thank you for believing I could do it. Relief flooded through me. You earned it. I'm proud of you. She smiled, tears glistening. You saved my life, Marcus. Not just my career, my actual life. I was becoming someone I hated. You forced me to confront that and gave me the chance to become better. I'll never forget it. After she left, I sat in the quiet office reflecting on the journey. From washing cars at 16 to building a multi-million-dollar empire. From being mocked as just a driver to transforming an entire company. But the real victory wasn't the money or the success. It was the people, the lives changed, the second chances given, the culture built on respect rather than fear. 5 years after the acquisition, I made the decision to step back from active management. At 40, I'd accomplished more than I'd ever dreamed. It was time for the next generation of leaders to take over. Kenji would remain CEO. Yolanda was promoted to COO. Harrison became CFO. They'd earned their positions through years of excellent work and genuine leadership. I'd stay on the board and focus on new investments through Zenith Holdings, but my daily involvement would end. The goodbye party was emotional. People I'd worked with for years came to share memories and thanks. Even employees I'd never directly worked with stopped by to say my leadership had impacted them. You changed what I thought leadership could be, one young manager told me. You showed me that being kind and being successful aren't mutually exclusive. During my farewell speech, I looked at the crowd. When I went undercover as a driver, I learned something crucial. How people treat those they consider beneath them reveals their true character. The best leaders are those who treat everyone with equal respect, regardless of title or position. I paused, gathering my thoughts. You've all created something special here. A company that succeeds not despite valuing people, but because of it. Keep that culture alive. Pass it on to every new hire. That's my only request. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. As I looked at the sea of faces, people I'd worked alongside, people I'd given second chances, people who'd grown into remarkable leaders, I felt complete satisfaction. Today, I sit in my home office overlooking the city. Nexus Corporation thrives under Kenji's leadership, now valued at over $1 billion. The culture we built remains strong, consistently rated as one of the best companies to work for in our industry. I've moved on to new projects, mentoring young entrepreneurs, funding startups led by people from disadvantaged backgrounds, and writing a book about leadership and culture transformation. But I still think about those early days standing by that Mercedes while executives mocked me. At the time, their words stung. Now, I see them as the catalyst for everything that followed. Harrison sends me quarterly updates. He's thriving as CFO, using his second chance to build a legacy of integrity. Whitmore runs our entire Asia-Pacific division now, leading with the humility she learned through failure. Yolanda just made the Forbes 40 Under 40 list. Last week, I received a letter from Tasha, the young woman who'd emailed me after reading the Fortune article. She'd found a job at a company with great culture, earned her MBA, and just started her own consulting firm helping organizations improve their workplace environments. "You inspired me to believe I deserve better," she wrote. "Now I'm helping others believe the same. Thank you for showing me what good leadership looks like." I framed that letter and hung it in my office. My phone buzzes with a text from Kenji. "Board meeting next week. Guest speaker wants to tell the undercover driver story to new executives. You in?" I smile and type back. "Wouldn't miss it." Because that story, of being dismissed, underestimated, and mocked, isn't about revenge or vindication. It's about transformation, second chances, and the power of treating every person with dignity. The executives who insulted me taught me an invaluable lesson, though not the one they intended. They showed me that true character reveals itself in how we treat people when we think it doesn't matter. They thought I was nobody. Just a driver with no ambition, no future, no value. They were wrong. I was the owner they never saw coming. But more importantly, I was a leader who understood that everyone deserves respect, regardless of their position. That understanding built an empire worth more than money. It built a legacy of dignity. As I look out at the sunset painting the sky orange and gold, I think about that young man washing cars at 16, dreaming of something more. He'd be proud of who I became, not because of the wealth or the success, but because I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot that every person matters. Every janitor, every assistant, every driver deserves to be treated with respect. Because you never know who they really are, what they're building, or what they're capable of becoming. The driver they insulted became the company owner. But the real transformation wasn't mine, it was the company's, the culture's, and the dozens of people who learned that redemption is possible and that leadership means service, not superiority. That's the legacy I'm proudest of. Not the money in my accounts or the companies in my portfolio, but the lives touched, the culture changed, and the proof that treating people well isn't just morally right, it's the foundation of lasting success. I close my laptop and head downstairs. Tomorrow, I'm having lunch with a young entrepreneur who reminds me of myself at 20. She's built a small business and needs guidance on scaling it. I'll share what I've learned, just as others once helped me. The cycle continues. The driver who became an owner is now the mentor helping others drive their own dreams forward. And that, more than any title or achievement, is what success really means.